You don't have to speak to prove your strength. Sometimes the loudest message you'll ever send is your silence, because silence doesn't mean weakness, it means control. When you learn to walk alone and stay centered, even when the world tries to pull you into noise, that's when you discover what real confidence feels like. This isn't about isolation, it's about independence. You stop chasing validation, you stop explaining yourself, and you start trusting your own presence. Silence is not empty, it's full of answers, clarity, and power. Silence is power because it puts you in control of your emotions. The moment you stop reacting to everything and everyone, you start mastering yourself. Most people don't understand this. They think silence means surrender, that staying quiet means you've got nothing to say or that you're being passive. But silence isn't about weakness, it's about awareness. It's about being so grounded, so centered, that you don't let external noise shake your internal peace. Think about it. Every time someone tries to provoke you, what they really want is control. They want to push your buttons, to make you react, to see you lose balance. Because the moment you react emotionally, they own you. You've handed them your peace, your focus, your energy. But when you remain silent, when you refuse to play that game, you take all that power back. You tell the world, you don't decide how I feel. I do. That's emotional intelligence. That's power. Silence gives you space to think before you respond. It allows you to pause, to analyze what's really happening. When you're silent, you see the bigger picture, the truth behind people's words, their intentions, their insecurities. You begin to notice how often noise is just a cover-up for weakness. People who talk too much are usually trying to convince themselves of something, but people who are quiet and observant, they don't need to prove anything, they already know. When you walk in silence, you start noticing how people reveal themselves without realizing it. The loudest person in the room is rarely the strongest. The one who's calm, who doesn't rush to explain or argue, that's the one who's in control. Silence has a weight to it, a presence that speaks louder than words ever could. It commands attention not because it demands it, but because it earns it. Confidence doesn't always look like talking big or acting bold. Sometimes it looks like stillness, like patience, like sitting back and letting things unfold without forcing them. The truth is, people respect silence when it comes from strength. When your silence carries intention, when it says, I could speak but I choose not to, you become unpredictable. And that unpredictability is powerful, because no one can manipulate or control someone they can't read. Walking alone with confidence means you've stopped seeking approval. You've stopped chasing validation. You've realized that your worth doesn't depend on how others perceive you, but on how you perceive yourself. That's why silence is so uncomfortable for many people. It exposes what's inside. When you're alone and quiet, there's no one to distract you from your own thoughts. That's where growth begins. You start confronting your fears, your insecurities, your patterns. You learn who you really are when there's no applause, no audience, no validation. Most people are scared of that kind of silence. They fill every quiet space with noise, music, talking, scrolling, because silence forces them to listen to themselves. But when you can be alone and peaceful, when you can walk in silence and feel whole, that's when you've mastered something most never will: inner stability. There's a certain strength in not explaining yourself, in not defending your choices to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Silence says, I know my truth. I don't need to convince you of it. It's knowing that your life doesn't need to be debated or justified. You understand that people will always have opinions. Some will judge, some will misunderstand, but none of it changes your reality. You can't control how people see you, but you can control how you carry yourself, and silence is one of the sharpest tools for doing that. The world teaches us to react fast, to respond instantly, to prove we're right, but real confidence comes from restraint, from knowing when to speak and when not to, because silence, when used wisely, can disarm arrogance, dissolve conflict, and demand respect without a single word. It's a form of self-respect. You stop lowering your vibration to match someone else's chaos. You choose peace over attention, calm over conflict, dignity over drama. And that's when everything shifts. When you stop reacting, you start responding with intention. You don't let anger lead your actions or pride lead your words. You begin to speak from strength, not emotion. Silence teaches you patience. It slows you down so you can see clearly. And in that clarity, you find wisdom. You realize that most battles aren't worth fighting, most comments aren't worth answering, and most people aren't worth convincing. There's also something deeply magnetic about silence. People notice it. They sense your calm, your confidence, your control, and they're drawn to it. Not because you're loud, but because you're composed. You radiate peace in a world addicted to chaos, and that peace becomes your superpower. It makes others curious, sometimes even intimidated, because they can't figure you out. They can't tell what you're thinking, how you feel, or what your next move is. That mystery gives you presence. it gives you leverage. Silence isn't about cutting yourself off from the world. It's about filtering what deserves access to you. It's choosing solitude over noise, clarity over confusion, self-respect over validation. When you walk alone, you're not lonely, you're focused. You're building a foundation that doesn't depend on anyone else's support. You're learning to enjoy your own company, to recharge in stillness, to listen to your intuition. And once you build that kind of peace within yourself, no one can take it away from you. People can say what they want, but their words bounce off your calm. Situations can change, but your response stays steady. That's what makes silence powerful. It anchors you. It keeps you rooted while the world around you spins in chaos. The ultimate form of confidence is not in proving others wrong. It's in not needing to prove anything at all. When you're silent, you're not disengaged, you're discerning. You speak when it adds value, not when it adds noise. You realize that your time, energy, and words are precious, and you refuse to waste them on what doesn't matter. So learn to love silence. Learn to walk alone without feeling alone. Learn to let people misunderstand you and still stay calm. Because silence doesn't mean you're hiding, it means you're evolving. It means you've reached a level of strength where peace is your response and solitude is your sanctuary. And when you can walk in that silence with confidence, you've already said everything you need to. Walking alone with confidence doesn't mean shutting people out. It means knowing when to walk away. It's not about isolation, it's about independence. It's the moment you realize that your path, your peace, and your progress don't require constant company or validation. True confidence isn't about how many people walk beside you. It's about how steady your steps remain when no one does. Because walking alone isn't lonely when you're walking in purpose. You see, most people never learn to walk alone because they've been taught to depend on others for direction, approval, and identity. They wait for someone to believe in them before they believe in themselves. But walking alone teaches you something different. It teaches you to build trust with yourself. You stop seeking permission to move forward. You stop explaining your choices. You start leading your own way, guided not by what others think you should be, but by what you know you're meant to be. When you walk alone, you start hearing your own voice again. The noise of other people's opinions fades, and you begin to notice what truly matters to you. You realize that solitude isn't punishment, it's power. It's the space where ideas form, dreams grow, and self-awareness deepens. You can't find your voice if you're constantly surrounded by noise. The quiet moments, the walks alone, the nights spent thinking, the silence that used to scare you, those are the moments where transformation begins. Walking alone doesn't mean you hate people. It means you love your peace more than you love being distracted. It's choosing growth over company, focus over attention, and clarity over chaos. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to walk away from relationships that drain you, from environments that limit you, and from conversations that no longer feed your spirit. Because not everyone is meant to walk your path, and that's okay. Some people are chapters, not the whole story. Confidence grows in silence, not in crowds. It grows when you learn to stand tall without needing applause. When you wake up every day knowing that your worth doesn't depend on who texts you, who praises you, or who stands beside you. It's the quiet strength of saying, even if no one believes in me, I'll still move forward. Because confidence isn't built from external validation, it's built from internal conviction. There's a deep power in walking alone with confidence because it strips away everything that's fake. You begin to see who truly supports you and who only stays when it's convenient. When you walk alone, you learn the difference between people who love your light and people who only love your attention. You realize that solitude doesn't isolate you. It filters your circle. It removes what's temporary and strengthens what's real. And yes, walking alone can feel uncomfortable at first. It can feel uncertain, like stepping into darkness without a flashlight. But that's where your faith grows. That's where resilience is born. When you have no one to lean on but yourself, you discover strength you didn't know existed. You start to see how capable you really are. You realize that peace doesn't come from being surrounded. It comes from being centered. Walking alone doesn't mean you stop loving others. It means you stop losing yourself in them. You stop bending your boundaries just to keep someone close. You stop watering dead plants. Because confidence is knowing that if you have to shrink yourself to fit into someone's world, it's not your place to stay. You're not meant to fit. You're meant to rise, and sometimes rising means rising alone. Every person who's ever built something meaningful has walked through a season of solitude. Artists, leaders, dreamers, all of them have faced the silence where no one believed in them, where no one saw their vision. That's where faith becomes real. That's where self-trust becomes unshakable. Because if you can keep walking when no one claps for you, imagine how unstoppable you'll be when they finally do. When you walk alone with confidence, you stop comparing your journey to others. You realize that everyone's timeline is different. You stop rushing your process because you see that your growth can't be measured by anyone else's milestones. You start walking at your own pace, understanding that consistency beats speed. It's not about how fast you move, it's about how true you stay to your path. Solitude teaches you discipline. When there's no one pushing you, you learn to push yourself. When there's no one to motivate you, you learn to self-motivate. That's when real strength develops, the kind that doesn't crumble when life gets quiet. Because most people need noise to feel alive, the confident ones can find peace in silence. They can sit with themselves without discomfort. They can walk without a crowd and still know they're going somewhere meaningful. There's also a special kind of peace that comes when you stop forcing people to stay. When you stop chasing after what's leaving, you realize that not everyone who starts with you is meant to finish with you. And that's not rejection, it's redirection. Some people's purpose in your life was to teach you something, not to travel forever with you. The road narrows as you rise, and not everyone can handle your growth. Walking alone allows you to outgrow environments that can't hold your potential. Confidence means walking into uncertainty with faith. It means not having all the answers, but trusting that you'll find them along the way. It's believing that you can lose everything, friends, comfort, approval, and still not lose yourself. Because you've built your identity on something solid, your values, your vision, your voice. That's why walking alone doesn't break you, it builds you. It strengthens your foundation so that when people come and go, you remain steady. And here's the truth, when you learn to walk alone with confidence, you start attracting people who are walking the same way. You no longer settle for half-hearted connections or surface-level energy. You begin to connect with those who carry peace, purpose, and strength. But the key is, you don't need them, you choose them. There's a difference. Needing comes from fear, choosing comes from strength. So don't fear walking alone, fear walking with the wrong crowd. Fear losing yourself just to be accepted. Because at the end of the day, confidence isn't about who's beside you, it's about who you are when no one is. Walking alone with confidence is freedom. It's peace. It's knowing that even if the world walks away, you'll keep moving forward. Because your direction comes from within, and your strength comes from silence. Silence and solitude reveal something most people never discover, the ability to trust your own presence. Keynote No. 3 is about the inner calm that comes from self-trust, because once you truly trust yourself, you don't chase reassurance. You don't panic when plans fall apart. You don't crumble under pressure. You stay composed because you know that no matter what happens, you'll handle it. That's real confidence, not arrogance, not pride, but a quiet certainty that says, I've got me. In a world where everyone is trying to be seen, the person who stays grounded stands out. People confuse confidence with volume. They think the loudest one in the room is the strongest. But real power doesn't need to announce itself. It's felt. You can sense it in someone who's calm under chaos, steady in storms, unbothered by opinions. That person isn't emotionless. They're emotionally anchored. Their peace isn't fragile. It's built from the inside out. When you walk in silence and solitude, you learn emotional independence. You stop depending on people to make you feel worthy or validated. You realize that peace is something you create, not something you find in others. And that changes everything, because the moment your peace no longer depends on how others treat you, you become unshakable. You can still care about people, love deeply, connect sincerely, but you no longer lose yourself in the process. Silence gives you time to understand yourself, to listen to your thoughts without interruption, to ask deeper questions. What do I really want? What kind of person am I becoming? What am I holding on to that's keeping me stuck? These questions aren't easy, and that's why most people avoid silence. Because silence confronts you. It shows you the truth about who you are beneath all the noise, and facing that truth takes courage. But that's where growth begins. That's where transformation happens. Walking alone with confidence doesn't mean you never feel fear or doubt. It means you don't let those emotions control you. You recognize them, sit with them, and move anyway. You learn that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's acting in spite of it. And that's what silence teaches. It slows everything down so you can separate noise from truth, fear from instinct, emotion from logic. There's something profoundly peaceful about reaching a stage where you no longer explain your silence. You no longer rush to correct misunderstandings or defend your choices. You simply live and let time reveal your truth. You begin to see that not every action needs justification, not every opinion needs an answer, and not every conflict deserves your energy. When you stop wasting energy on the unimportant, you redirect that energy into growth, into purpose, into peace. Silence builds focus. When you cut off distractions, you start to notice how powerful your attention really is. Most people are drained not because life is too hard, but because they're too scattered. They give their attention to everything and everyone. But when you walk alone, you learn to guard your focus. You begin to prioritize what matters, your goals, your values, your time. You realize that peace is not found in having everything. It's found in managing what deserves space in your mind. Walking alone teaches you patience. It teaches you that not everything needs to happen right now. You learn to wait, not in frustration, but in faith. You stop forcing outcomes because you understand that real success takes time. You start trusting the process, trusting yourself, and trusting that what's meant for you won't pass you by. That calm certainty, that's confidence. It's not loud, it's not rushed. It's a quiet belief that says, I'll get there when I'm meant to, and I'll still be whole along the way. Silence also gives you discernment. You start seeing people more clearly, not through your emotions, but through observation. You notice who respects your silence and who fears it. The people who truly value you will never be threatened by your peace. They'll respect your space, your boundaries, and your growth. But those who feed off chaos, those who need constant attention, they'll fade away. And that's a blessing, because silence doesn't just protect your energy, it exposes theirs. When you live in silence and self-trust, you stop reacting to everything that happens around you. You stop fighting battles that don't belong to you. You begin to respond instead of react, and that's where wisdom shows up, because reaction is emotion, response is awareness. Silence gives you that pause, that breath between stimulus and response, where you can choose peace instead of chaos. Another truth about silence is that it's where creativity and intuition thrive. Every great idea, every powerful realization comes from moments of stillness. When your mind is quiet, your inner voice becomes louder. You start hearing your intuition clearly, the part of you that always knows what to do but often gets drowned out by noise. In silence, that voice guides you, calms you, and grounds you. It becomes your compass when the world gets confusing. Walking alone with confidence means walking in alignment with your values, your beliefs, your truth. It means no longer betraying yourself just to fit in or be accepted. It's realizing that peace is worth more than popularity. You stop chasing validation because you found something better, self-respect. And when you respect yourself deeply, you automatically raise your standards. You no longer tolerate half love, half effort, or half truths. You move with intention, you choose quality over quantity. Silence becomes your armor in a noisy world. It protects you from drama, from manipulation, from distraction. But it also becomes your teacher. It teaches you how to stay calm when everything else is falling apart. It teaches you how to be still and yet strong. You begin to see that your greatest strength isn't how much you can say, it's how much you can stay composed. And the beauty of it all, when you reach that point, when silence no longer feels empty, but full, you've arrived at true freedom. You no longer chase peace, you are peace. You no longer need to be understood, you understand yourself. You no longer depend on others to make you feel valuable. You already know you are. So when you walk alone, walk with your head high and your spirit calm. Let your silence speak where words can't. Let your confidence come from your consistency, not your company. Because silence doesn't mean nothing is happening. It means everything important is happening within you. And that inner stillness, that unshakable calm, that unbothered strength, that's where your true power lies.